Thank you very much. I think I'll open the floor for discussion, and maybe I'll have comments later. So who would like to raise questions? No questions? Yeah.
Dr. Adli Hassanin, Mediterranean Center for Sustainable Development. I wonder why we don't associate Ministry of Health and Ministry of Environment in these efforts. I'll take an example. The United Nations Sustainable Development Program insists that we have to focus on the well-being of the citizens. And a very tiny example, because I worked on that program for a while, the absence of public toilets in our cities, and specifically downtown Cairo, where if you go after midnight, you can smell it all over the place because they have no access to public toilet. And that's a health hazard and also is dehumanizing the population because they have to do it like animals. I think there is something has to be done, and if I look back, I was born in 1945, and I look back at that time when I was young, walking downtown Cairo, every square had a very clean downtown public toilet. They disappeared, and it is a very basic necessity for human beings to do that. So the cosmetic work of cleaning the picture from the outside, having the urban look nice is not enough. It has to be functional at the same time. And I don't want to take any more time talking about other examples. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Yes.
أنا اسمي نبيل الهادي. أنا سؤالي للباشمهندس أكرم. أول حاجة أنا متشكر لحضرتك جدا إن حضرتك شاركت معانا في المؤتمر. طب مهم جدا، في ناس كتير زي حالاتي متهيألي ما يعرفوش الشركة واللي هي بتعمله. أنا أتمنى من حضرتك تقول لنا، تكلمنا شوية عن رؤية الشركة. هل الشركة بس بتعمل صيانة وترميم في وسط البلد، ولا هي شايفة إيه في وسط دورها إيه في وسط البلد بالظبط؟ يعني هي شايفة قد إيه دورها؟ لأن واضح إن الشركة عندها بورتفوليو كبيرة من العقارات، وبالتالي غالبا ليها تأثير مهم جدا على اللي هيحصل في وسط البلد، اللي حصل واللي هيحصل في المستقبل. واكيد في مناقشه ما او رؤيه للشركه عن دورها ايه في وسط البلد وايه اللي بيحصل. لو حضرتك بعد اذنك تكلمنا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. وحضرتك احنا اتكلمنا وقلنا ان بدايه الشركه اتفقنا مع جميع جهات الدوله، منها التنسيق الحضاري، ومنها محافظه القاهره، ومنها شركه المقاولين العرب. احنا كان دورنا ان احنا نحافظ على العقارات دي بان احنا اتصلنا برؤساء الاحياء، جبنا جميع قرارات التنكيس الصادر لها قرار تنكيس، شفنا عملنا سيرش للعماره بالكامل، من صيانه، من سباكه، من ريبير في الخرسانه، عملنا ريبورت كامل عن كل عقار. كل ده ليه؟ مع ان انت عارف الناتج اللي بيجي لي من ورا العقار زيرو. انا بصرف عالي، ولكن عشان الشركه جزء من الدوله انا بحافظ على عقاراتي، ومهما صرفت عليها انا بحافظ عليها. فانا ابتديت بايه؟ ابتديت بان انا انفذ قرارات تنكيس، ابتديت اخش مع المحافظه في تطوير القاهره الخديويه، عملت توثيق كامل لكل المشاكل اللي عندي. انا تطويري او انا يعني فكري بقول ان انا برضو عايز السكان يساعدوني، ما بقاش انا واخد الدايركت ان انا اصلح وفي ناس بتبوظ. دخلت مع التنسيق الحضاري وعملنا كل جزئيه لوحديها خطه بديله. الاولى التطوير الخارجي من جوه، ابتدينا نعمل ابتدت مع المحافظه ومهندسين الاحياء، ابتدينا نحط ايدينا على كل المشاكل الداخليه في العقار، من ريبير زي 6 رمسيس عملنا ريبير كامل للاساسات. في العمارات الخديويه، في دلوقتي انت عارف شارع عماد الدين كله عايم على ميه، ابتدينا نتنسق مع وزاره الصحه، الجهاز القومي للبحوث، ابتدينا مع مهندسين الاحياء نخش على جزء. انا بقول ايه، انا لازم احافظ على العقار كعقار، احافظ على العقار كعقار، وبعد كده انا عندي وحداتي اللي ممكن استغلها بعد كده باستغلال كويس تعيد على الشركه عائد. ما انا مسؤول عنها، انا المالك، انا مسؤول عن العقار، فلازم اصلح العقار. قلت لحضرتك في اثناء الحديث ان انا في بعض العقارات صدر لها اللجنه بتاعت المجلس اللي هو بيسموه اللي هو السكان، اتحاد شغالين. اتحاد الشغالين ده اصبح بيبقى مسؤول معايا في جزئيه خاصه بصيانه العقار.
حضرتك بتتكلم على مئات الملايين من الجنيهات، ولازم حضرتك تبقى الشركه المفروض انها اكيد عندها عوائد، عشان مش معقول الشركه هتخسر لانها خسرت سنه وزمن.
انا مش شغال في كده بس، خد بالك انا عندي استثمارات خاصه بنفس العقارات دي، يعني انا باخد من الاستثمار بتاعها وبصرف جزء منه على الصيانه.
أنا حنان الضبع صحفية، وعايزة أوجه السؤال للأستاذ أكرم باعتباري أنا ساكنة الحقيقة في وسط البلد، وفي حاجة مهمة جدا وهي يعني خلينا لما نيجي نتكلم على الصيانة ونتكلم على التطوير، جزء من التطوير هو الحفاظ على أرواح المواطنين برضو. معظم وإن كان يعني
استاذنك بس أنه عقار
33 شارع 26 يوليو. طبعا حضرتك عارف ان العقار ده فيه مطاعم، ويمكن حدثت اكتر من يعني حريق وكان في ناس توفت فيها. منظومة التطوير هل لها علاقة بعدم وجود او اقتلاع المطاعم دي، باعتبار ان هي انا شايفه ان هي ملهاش وجود اصلا، يعني ما ينفعش تبقى موجوده في عقار زي ده؟
حضرتك هي مؤجره من امتى؟ العقار المحلات دي مؤجره من امتى؟
لا دي من زمان قوي.
هل في قانون في البلد بيديني السلطه ان انا امشي الناس دي؟
اذا لم يوجد.
انا بسال سعادتك.
ما هو معلش انا غير انا مش
انا لما بيجي محل من المحلات، وفي بعض المحلات هو عامل مطعم عمل لي كابينه بتاعت غاز جوه في المنور.
بالتاكيد ايوه ده حقيقي.
اشتكينا للحي ورحنا للحي وفضلنا وراه خلال شهرين لحد ما شاله.
لا الحقيقه يعني
انا بقول لسعادتك يعني لو كل واحد هقعد جنبيه مهندس ماسك يتابع الحي ويتابع المحافظه ويتابع علشان اصلح حاجه واحده.
معلش انا خليني يعني اعترض مع حضرتك، اعترض مع حضرتك انه اذا كانت الشركه مسؤوله عن العماره، واذا كانت هي يعني اخذت على عاتقها عمليه التطوير الحضاري، اذا كان التطوير خارجي يبقى يجب ان يكون التطوير ايضا داخلي.
مظبوط.
وانا متفقه مع الاستاذ اللي اتكلم دلوقتي ان هو يجب ان يكون في تعاون ما بين كل الوزارات للتطوير بكل اشكاله وانواعه، خاصة المسألة دي صعبة جدا وموجودة في كل عقارات وسط البلد.
المشاكل دي موجودة في كل حتة.
موجودة
طبعا.
وفي مكان زي ده اعتقد ان هي من الخطورة ومن تشويه التطوير اللي المفترض حضراتكم بتقوموا بيه. يعني انا برجو من حضرتك باعتباري انا حد من الكائنين انه شوفوا لكم حل في القصة دي، لان دي مسألة مهمة.
سؤال بس، هل 33 مفعل له اتحاد شغالين؟
مش انا ما عنديش فكره
لا
عن
انا
القصه دي.
اكد لسعادتك انه مفعل له اتحاد شغاليه.
مفعل له.
اه يعني القصه كلها ان انا برضو مش على عاتقي هيبقى التطوير والترميم والصيانه. انا عايز اقول ان العائد من العقارات، وانتوا عارفينه كويس جدا، مش عايز اقول سعادتك السنه الايجار كام.
ايوه عارفه.
واضح يعني. هي النقطه انا بصرف مئات الملايين، اوكي، وانا مش مختلف وكمل وعامل خطه للعمل الغير الداخلي. بس هي النقطه كلها ان انا دلوقتي بدل في اتحاد شاغلين مفعل، اصبح هو المسؤول عن الحاجات اللي بتتكلمي حضرتك عليها الصغيره، اللي هي الصيانه
هو بس نرجو التعاون، يعني هو
اكيد طبعا.
التعاون.
الشركه متعاونه في كل النقط دي.
شكرا.
Thank you to all the speakers. Very interesting presentations. I'm struck by the focus specifically in Lucia Ritsova's piece, very much about people, social movements, social classes, differing lived uses of the city, of downtown, and the distinction in that between how Mr. Akram Ismail Mohammed has spoken of the city very much to do with buildings, bricks and mortar, maintenance. And then the discussion, the distance between that immediately comes up with this lady's question about who can build a restaurant that is physically unsafe, whose lives are endangered. So I would like to, once again, it's not a question, but I would love to see that gap bridged in the discussion between the two of you. Maybe I can start with a very basic question for Mr. Ismail Mohammed. Who do you see using these buildings that you own, and how do you see them using it? What's your ideal? What kind of, do you subscribe to Professor Ritsova's idea of a heterotopic use of downtown? What are its limits of that in your mind? That's a huge discussion, I think.
I have a question for Lucy, and thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. And I also thank just the previous comment regarding the contrast between the bricks and mortar and your beautiful picture of current downtown. So my question to you is, and I completely agree, because I work at AUC and I have observed, and I actually work in Falaki building, which is nearby. And so my work in continuing education gets me to see all around downtown. So I do agree, and I love the analysis. But based on your research, what next? You've taken us back. Can you take us forward in a picture of possibilities? I'll be very interested.
I have the two questions. The first to Lucy, regarding the contested meanings or the contesting meanings of downtown. If you can highlight how these contesting meanings are managed, like is it only the relations of power that the government, for example, comes in and just drives the street vendors away, or tries to gentrificate between brackets by force, or the militarization of some spaces and the sort of wiping the whole memory of the urban wars, if we can call them so, the urbicide, if you wish to call it, whatever you call it. So if you can just highlight, instead of just describing, also how the management, in few words, how this contestation has been managed, how these differences and diversities have been managed in a way. Because I'm a political scientist, my name is Heba, and
from my perspective, power and might is right, you know, is what we see. So are there under the surface ways, like cluster, for example, they have different projects, etc. But do you see something more to say about that? And to Ernesto, thank you very much. But I would like you to highlight as well some of the dimensions of resistance, because not all the time do people actually accept the neo-liberal and capitalist intervention in their life, especially when it comes from abroad, you know, with the globalization. So what forms of resistance have there been in the case? I can consider the revolution slash uprising of the 25th of January in Egypt, for example, a form of resistance on different levels. And it has an urban and a dimension, and it has a class dimension as well, besides the ideological, etc. But can you just highlight if there has been examples of resistance, of urban resistance, of the intervention, not of the gentrification or development, but of the intervention in people's life that we can actually look into? Thank you very much.
Okay, I'm an AAC student. Okay, here, over here. And my question is for Dr. Ernesto. What are the outcomes of gentrification and consequences of gentrification? Thank you.
In general or in Latin America?
No, in general.
Okay, thank you for your brilliant questions. I'm not sure I'm the right person to answer the first question, whether I can take us forward, because I'm a historian and I don't do any predictions. And what I tried to do in my presentations was to lay out the stakes so that those who want to see the future dynamics can see it there. And the same for Dr. Heba. How are they managed? Well, obviously, it is very much about power, and we have top-down processes of different sorts. There is the government plans, of course there is securitization through clearing out downtown street vendors, and there's this policing approach. Then there is the sort of beautifying approach of whitewashing the facades. Then there is the Ismailia approach, which works much more organically with sort of encouraging the art vibe, bringing in new publics. But, you know, I am not sure, and then what I am really interested in, as you've seen, is how people, very different publics, practice the city in very different ways. So I do not necessarily see how I could answer your question in any other way, but just to say it really is a kaleidoscope of different forces and power relationships, of course, and I was trying to give voice to the people who actually use the street and how they practice the city, because yeah, I wanted to give back agency to them, if that.
أنا لحد دلوقتي أنا مركز على العقار وليس على السكان. طب إيه المطلوب؟ إيه السؤال؟
Okay. Well, thank you very much for very interesting questions, and happy to see that my presentation was understood because of my bad English. I would like to start by the second one. What are the outcomes of gentrification? I mean, a group of scholars in the last 10 years probably have been trying to stretch the concept of gentrification and taking it from its origins in London, 1964, Ruth Glass story about regeneration of Islington neighborhood by a certain type of bourgeois gentry class with some specific attributes of cultural consumption and I don't know, style of life and so on, and bringing the concept into more useful terms in order to be applied to other parts of the world. Because gentrification is, after all, a class struggle. It's class conflict. It's a conflict for the same space, for the use of the same space, by different classes. I mean, and that brings us to a lot of connotations and discussions about what are, for instance, the right by those classes to different classes to occupy the space. Some of them claim the right, struggle for the right. Some others just think or feel that their right comes from their purchasing power. Lower classes that reclaim the space usually don't have state support, or they are neglected by the renewing, regenerating, creative housing policy. The other ones who want to occupy that space, they count with enormous state and private resources in order to do that and to privatize the space. So, I mean, probably previously to discuss about the outcomes, we should discuss about the conditions that bring gentrification to occur and take place. Because the outcomes seems to be, to me at least, very clear. This is this displacement of the less powerful people inhabiting certain spaces. For the sake of what? The sake of a recreation of space, recreation of opportunities for accumulation, landed revenues. And that brings us to the first question that was made, which is about resistance to urban policies, resistant to the transformation of the city for the sake of capital, on the sake of those who own and have the biggest stake at the moment of defining urban policy. In a nutshell, I don't like to talk just about resistance, but also about social creativity, social alternatives, alternative ways to stay put, alternative ways to recreate spaces, to create more inclusive spaces. I mean, we shouldn't worry too much about how to bring more rich people to central areas. We should worry about how to keep people living there, and give people tools to manage the way they want to reshape, or they need to reshape the space for the sake of their stay. I recommend reading a lot about the Brazilian experience of certain favelas in Rio de Janeiro, how they managed to cope with these pacification policies, and also recommend Uruguay's, Montevideo's experience on self-management, housing construction. That was brought later to Buenos Aires, and they have managed to allow around 15,000 people for a city of 8 million, of course, but 18,000 people to stay living in the neighborhoods of southern Buenos Aires. They have created a construction firm with very little resources came from the state. Of course, they don't work for profit, so their cost of constructions are much lower. But if you see the architecture of those cases, I've shown a picture, my last picture in fact, it's a great architecture they have created, much more efficient spaces. Of course, they solve the problem of groundwaters and toilets in the houses. They don't want derelict public spaces surrounding them. I mean, they are poor, but they are not dirty. So they know they don't have to live like dirty people. They have managed integrally the whole system of producing urban environments. So there's so much to learn about those experiences. Well, thank you very much for your questions.
Okay, thank you very much for the wonderful presentations. I think this is drawing on some of the earlier comments. I think one of the things that are very clear from the panel and from the presentation that we're talking about multiple publics and stakeholders, and therefore the multiple position that we have on the panel is really a representation of that, and different priorities and different approaches. And I think that's not only rich, but also necessary for the city center. It's all about multi-layerness and diversity and mixed use and so on and so forth. But I think the question is how to negotiate these competing interests, as you said, Lucy, and you alluded to. And I think maybe my question to Ernesto, you told us about some of these big mega projects, and then you showed us some examples of where it worked a little better, like in Panama, I think, city, where there was a sort of a conflict between the state policy for subsidized housing versus public space. So my question is, like, what kind of management or kind of process whereby these different interests are negotiated? In terms of, I know it's more of a governance question rather, but I think it also helps us to envision in Cairo what are the different processes whereby the government engages with private sector, art communities, residents, so that you can address the different issues on multiple levels. So it's not like one big monolithic vision as opposed to class struggle from the bottom up. There's a room in between. And I think in downtown Cairo, we tend to sort of fall between either we leave things to fall into decay or it's full gentrification. I'm sure there's a room in between to do stuff creatively and critically so that the city can grow and change and prosper without necessarily having this social displacement. So my question is, what are the processes, structural and frameworks and management processes whereby we can really learn from Latin American experience, successful projects?
Hello, my name is Maya Lebrashi, and my question is to Lucy Rizova. You mentioned very fleetingly this idea that the current community that lives in downtown is not really a community. And I feel that this is a bit of a dangerous statement that needs to be both qualified and quantified, because I think that maybe it could be used in a way that is worrying by developers and decision makers. And maybe it should be quantified a little bit more in terms of population density and information about the origins of the people who live there, their historical relationship to downtown. And also you mentioned very briefly that you're talking about a particular, a certain set of borders that are not all of downtown. So maybe if you'd explain a little bit.
اوكي سؤالي للاستاذ اكرم. انا جاي من بيروت، انا اسمي جورج عربيد، والحقيقه لفتني كثير الفرق بالموضوع، مثل ما انحكى انه من جهه في الاهتمام بالناس والحركه بالوسط، ومن جهه ثانيه محاوله من قبلكم والجهه اللي بتمثلها بترميم الحجر وغيره. نحن ببيروت بإعادة الترميم شركة سوليدار كانت دائما بالحديث على القليل تقول ترميم الحجر والبشر والبشر والحجر، فما كنت أقدر إلا ما أتذكر هالكلام. بس مرق على العمل هيدا بإعادة الإعمار زمن كافي لنشوف الفشل تبعه. فالسؤال لإلك هو طالما بندوات مثل هيدي تنوجد مع ناس عندهم هم مختلف، هل ممكن مثلا انه تكون انت صوت من داخل هالمؤسسة اللي بتشتغل فيها لحتى نوعا ما الاهتمام يكفي على الحجر، بس بنفس الوقت الاستفادة من هالاموال الكبيرة اللي عم بسمعها انا لحتى يصير في شغل، لحتى هالمجتمع يضله متماسك، لحتى الناس الموجودة. سمعت موضوع المطعم اللي هو موضوع كتير خاص، بس يمكن بيعبر عن يمكن خيوط ممكن واحد يشتغل عليها. اللي هي تحسين المعيشه. وسمعت منك انك عم بتقول انه بلشتوا بالواجهات لانه في تراتبيه بالاهتمامات وبالبادجت، بس اكيد هذا يعني كثير منيح بشكل التبريج والشكل كثير مثل ما شفت بالصور ناجح، ولكن هل هالشيء عم بيطول حياه المباني؟ هل عم بيترك الناس بمكانها؟ فالسؤال لك هو ليش ما بيستفاد من كل هالافكار اللي عم بتصير كرمال لانه الاموال موجوده يتجير شوي هالمال وجزء منه يروح لمحل ثاني غير الحجر؟
هو
Hello.
اتفضل.
I am Ahsana Bushadi, and my question is to Ernesto Lopez. Currently in downtown, a lot of properties are owned or being bought by developers, investors, and real estate agencies. Do you think that this may lead to the phenomenon you were describing about the artsy class in Latin America? And if we could identify the steps that lead to this process, what would they be?
بالنسبة لسؤال سعادتك وسؤال الأستاذة، حضرتك احنا عندنا في الشركة مش النهاردة بس، ده احنا بقالنا مدة أنشأنا إدارة عامة للعملاء ومتابعة العملاء للمشاركة معاهم في وجود أي شكاوى أو وجود أي مشاكل بين السكان وبعضيها. يعني الموضوع ما بقاش إن أنا بطور أو بعمل ريبير، لا، ده الريبير ده في حد ذاته خدمة لمين؟ مش خدمة للسكان نفسهم. المشاكل اللي بتنشأ من إن ما بقاش ساكن لوحده اللي قاعد، ده بقى هو وولاده قاعدين في نفس المكان بيتوارثوه، أصبح يعني المشاكل بقت كتيرة جدا. أنا علشان أحل مشاكل الناس دي ببتدي بمشاكل المبنى نفسه. في أي مشاكل بعد كده في الأجرة، في التنازل عن الحق، التنازل عن حق الإيجار أو البيع أو حضرتك في علاقة شغل بيتم كتير قوي مع السكان علشان راحتهم، لكن التعاون ما بيحصلش تعاون كتير اوقات كتير قوي من الساكن معانا. يعني المشكله ما بتبقاش ان انا هدور على المشكله عندك ايه عشان احلها، لا، حضرتك اللي بتجيلي بالمشكله وانا بحاول احلها لك.
Thank you again for the questions. I'm not really sure that artists are the first step to gentrification now. I mean, that was part of the narrative created in London and New York, but not necessarily it happens the same way in other parts of the world. That's because maybe urban policies or urban agents have real estate stakeholders have discovered that they don't need these guys to redevelop an area to attract interest of investors and policymakers in order to reshape inner city quarters for the sake of creating capital from that. But having said that, yes, we could find in Latin America the role played by artists in gentrification and gentrifying areas. And it's very contradictory because you have these very top posh artists who exhibit in very luxury galleries. And if you go to Puerto Madero in Buenos Aires, you will find probably the poshest gallery ever in Latin America, located in the center of this mega project redevelopment. Is huge. The most famous artists of the world exhibit there. If you go to Colonia Juarez in the inner city of Mexico City, you will find very activist artists and very anarchist artists struggling along with indigenous residents in order not to be evicted. And these guys, these artists in Colonia Juarez they bring a lot of, they have a massive network, international network, and they invite other artists to come to the neighborhood and they do these exhibitions, and I attended some of them. But also they transmit this idea, and this is a very smart way to make popular the ideas of resistance and neighborhood resistance, and to send them to other places of the world, and somehow use these artist colleagues from other places, use them as, I don't know, transmitters of the idea that something really wrong is taking place in Colonia Juarez, which is one of the 60 neighborhoods in Mexico City under the threat of gentrification. So the role played by artists can be very variegated, and it depends. I mean, there is not a single narrative of gentrification starting by artists discovering spaces. I mean, that's something that has proven very specific to certain cities of the world. And okay, what is in the between the process? Responding to your question, I don't know. The outcomes depend on how democratic the regimes are. What Latin America tells us is that the deepest neoliberalism was installed, the deeper, less participation, less democracy there would be. Neoliberalism is not democratic. Neoliberalism is the dictatorship of capital in spaces. So it's not surprising that in Argentina or Brazil, which are the countries, even though they are neoliberal, they're less neoliberal. Neoliberalism had less time to be installed there, so people can react. People maintain certain networks and ways of life that brought them now more recently to resist and create alternatives for urban policy. They participate. State allows them to participate in urban policy decision making. In the case of Chile, neoliberalism was installed during 17 years and was so deeply installed that any alternative way of participation, or even the state, does not give space to participate at all. So that's a struggle. I think it's highly correlated with this macro structural process of neoliberalization. So I think we're talking about something which is going on here too.
I will, thank you, pick very quickly the question about the different groups and the fact that downtown Malhash Ahali, it doesn't have its own inhabitants. As I was saying, really depends on, actually as I didn't develop in my presentation, it really depends how we define downtown. And there are at least two competing definitions of what is downtown spatially. One would be the definition favored by architectural historians, heritage professionals, and investors, which would be the Ismailia Quarter, okay, the Khedivial Cairo. That's one. But then the social understanding of what is downtown Cairo, when people say, I'm going out to sit in an ahwa fi wust al-balad, it's not that, it's south of it. Okay, so it's from Borsa down to Babelou, down to, especially around Hoda Sharawi, Midan Babelou, and so on. And I think it's probably, whereas the sort of architecturally heritage sort of definition of downtown at night is basically, nobody goes to hang out there. It's populated with low-income young males strolling, loitering, and lower-middle-class families who don't spend much, just. And I think it's a million question probably for Karim Shafei how to make the hype south move more up to where you guys are. But just very, the related question was whether the fragmented nature of downtown inhabitants is the very weakness of downtown. I think it's so far the strength of downtowns, probably. It's both a weakness and strength. I think these different groups that I mentioned, the old-timers who are mostly very old people, even their descendants are now at least middle-aged, the foreigners who hang out there, here and there, and leave. But more importantly, the Egyptian creative class, which often has a second, studio or atelier in downtown, but not with their families. Most of the Egyptian intellectuals, artists that I know actually don't live there, but they may rent a place there. Plus, of course, the fringes, Maruf and Babelou, again, lihum ahalihum. They have their own downwardly mobile middle class. Now, as I mentioned, all these different groups, I think, pass each other like ships in the night, and they often look at each other with suspicion. This is what creates, what endows downtown with this liminal heterotopic quality of a relatively free space, which sort of where, which nobody owns, but which can be appropriated by others. And I don't necessarily think that it's a weakness that developers or big capital would exploit. What really is the weakness on downtown, I think, what could encourage gentrification, or what I think gentrification will be all about in downtown, is rent control. And I think that's the big elephant in the room. We will be talking about this, because that's really the key thing.
So thank you very much. I'm afraid that we'll have to end. You can continue discussion later. And thanks a lot for the panelists.
So we'll be having a coffee break and reconvene at 12:30 for the second panel on artists as urban catalysts. Thank you very much.